We don't teach people how to survive Monday mornings in 2025. We don't teach workers how to navigate their third career pivot before age 30. You tell me which is going to be more valuable for the rest of your life. Knowing how to reinvent yourself professionally or remembering trigonometry formulas. Here's what Deloitte's research reveals. 89% of Gen Z and 92% of Millennials consider a sense of purpose critical to job satisfaction. Yet 40% of Gen Z plan to leave their employer within 2 years. Every single one of us knows what paycheck we're chasing. Some of us know how we're grinding for it, but very few can articulate why we're doing any of it. And that disconnect is creating some uncomfortable truths about what happened when millions of people tried to solve their work problems by simply walking away. The Great Resignation, hangover nobody talks about. The data tells a different story than the motivational posts flooding your LinkedIn feed. According to Paychecks research, 47% of workers who switched jobs during the pandemic now regret their decision. These aren't people who made bad choices or jumped ship too quickly. These are smart, capable professionals who did exactly what every career guru told them to do. They left toxic workplaces, negotiated better salaries, found remote positions, started passion projects. They followed their dreams and somehow ended up more frustrated than when they started. The problem is we confused escaping a bad situation with finding actual purpose. It's like leaving a toxic relationship only to realize you still don't know what you actually want in a partner. You know what you don't want: the micromanaging, the pointless meetings, the commute, the office politics. But knowing what you're running from doesn't automatically reveal what you're running toward. So people made dramatic career moves based on what they wanted to avoid rather than what they wanted to create. Sarah from Portland quit her marketing job in 2021 to become a freelance graphic designer. She had visions of creative freedom, flexible schedules, choosing her own clients. 2 years later, she's working with 3 different companies she doesn't particularly like, earning 30% less than her corporate salary, and desperately missing her old health insurance plan. The work itself feels just as meaningless as before, except now she has to chase down payments and handle her own taxes. She solved the where and how of work, but never addressed the fundamental why. Sarah represents the 80% of workers who quit and later regret it, not because remote work or higher pay were wrong goals, but because she never understood what would actually energize her at a core level. Corporate lawyers became legal consultants and found themselves doing the exact same work for different clients. Software engineers left big tech to join startups and discovered they were still writing code they didn't care about, just with worse benefits and more uncertainty. Teachers quit to become online course creators and realized they were still dealing with the same educational challenges, minus the job security and colleague support. The Great Resignation fixed surface-level problems while leaving the core issue completely untouched. We solved remote work, salary negotiations, and workplace flexibility. We didn't solve the deeper question of why any particular person should be doing any particular work. It's like renovating the kitchen when the foundation is cracked. Everything looks better, but the structural problems remain. Without knowing your deeper purpose, every job feels like wearing someone else's clothes. Technically functional, but never quite right. The fit is off in ways you can't quite identify. You can adjust the sleeves and hem the pants, but something fundamental doesn't match who you are. This explains why some people seem to thrive in any work environment, while others remain miserable despite perfect conditions. The difference isn't the job. It's the clarity about why that specific person is doing that specific work. Marcus worked in finance for 8 years before quitting to start a food truck business. He thought he hated spreadsheets and wanted to work with his hands. 6 months into running his business, he realized he spent most of his time on inventory management, financial projections, and customer analytics, essentially the same analytical work he did in his corporate job. The difference was he now understood why those numbers mattered to him personally. He wasn't just tracking profit margins for some distant shareholders. He was building something that connected him to his community in a way that felt meaningful. The modern worker's journey resembles speed dating more than career planning. Quick interviews, rapid decisions, constant movement, but never asking the fundamental questions that might lead to something substantial. People hop between companies like they're swiping through dating apps, looking for the perfect match, while avoiding the hard work of understanding what they actually need to feel fulfilled. This creates a bizarre situation where workers have more career mobility than any generation in history, but less career satisfaction. The tools for changing jobs have never been better: LinkedIn, remote work platforms, gig economy apps, online learning resources. Yet professional contentment continues to decline across age groups and income brackets. We've optimized everything about work except the part that makes work worth doing. The real problem isn't bad bosses or long hours or insufficient vacation time. Those are symptoms of a much deeper issue. People are fundamentally disconnected from their own motivations. They know they want to feel engaged and purposeful, but they have no framework for understanding what engagement and purpose actually mean for them specifically. So they chase external changes hoping to stumble into internal clarity. Deloitte's research reveals that work-life balance ranks as the top priority for 32% of Gen Z when choosing employers. Yet this focus on external conditions rather than internal alignment explains why even balanced, flexible jobs can feel empty. When that alignment exists, challenging work becomes energizing rather than draining. Difficult conversations become opportunities rather than obstacles. Even mundane tasks feel connected to something larger and more meaningful. The aftermath of the Great Resignation reveals something crucial about modern career strategy. Individual job changes, salary increases, and workplace improvements can't fix a fundamental lack of self-knowledge. People who left their jobs without understanding why they were truly dissatisfied just imported their confusion into new environments. Different setting, same internal experience. Companies responded to the Great Resignation by improving benefits, increasing salaries, and offering more flexibility. Employees got better working conditions, but not better working clarity. The external improvements masked the internal emptiness, creating a generation of workers who have everything they thought they wanted, but still feel something essential is missing. The most telling statistic isn't about job satisfaction or salary levels. It's that 47% of people who changed jobs during the Great Resignation are already planning their next career move. This suggests the changes they made weren't solving their actual problem. They're still searching for something they can't quite identify, making career decisions based on process of elimination rather than positive vision. What separates those who found fulfillment through career changes from those who just found different versions of the same dissatisfaction? The successful career changers didn't just know what they wanted to escape, they knew what they wanted to build. They understood not just which environments drained them, but which activities energized them at a core level. The most successful people in 2025 aren't those with the best job titles, highest salaries, or most impressive LinkedIn profiles. They're the people who can clearly articulate why they do what they do. They understand their own motivations well enough to make decisions that align with their deeper values rather than just their immediate preferences. They've done the internal work that makes external changes actually meaningful. But here's where most people get stuck. They know they need clarity, so they turn to the tools everyone else is using to figure out their future. Why your vision board is actually making you miserable. Pinterest is full of abandoned vision boards from January 2024, just like those forgotten gym memberships gathering digital dust in your email folder. Millions of carefully curated collages featuring corner offices, exotic vacation destinations, and inspirational quotes about manifestation. All created with genuine intention during those hopeful first weeks of the year, then quietly ignored once February reality set in. The problem isn't that people lack ambition or follow-through. The problem is we've been taught to set goals completely backwards. We focus obsessively on what we want to have rather than who we want to become. That vision board shows the Mercedes, the penthouse apartment, the speaking engagement on a big stage. It shows the external markers of success without any connection to the internal motivations that would make those achievements meaningful. You can stare at a picture of a CEO office all day, but if you don't understand why you want to lead people, that corner office will feel as empty as a movie set once you get there. This creates what psychologists call destination addiction, the belief that reaching a specific milestone will suddenly make everything click into place. People convince themselves that once they hit that salary target, land that promotion, or launch that business, they'll finally feel the satisfaction they've been chasing. But destination addiction is like believing that buying a house will automatically make you feel at home. The external achievement can't fix the internal disconnection. Think about trying to navigate with a GPS that only shows you the destination but none of the roads. You know exactly where you want to go, but you have absolutely no idea how to get there. That's what most career planning looks like. People can describe their dream job in vivid detail: the salary, the title, the company culture, the work-life balance. But ask them why that specific outcome would be fulfilling, and they go completely blank. Social media has turned career success into performance art. LinkedIn feeds overflow with carefully staged photos of people pointing at whiteboards, holding coffee cups in aesthetically pleasing offices, and sharing inspirational quotes about grinding toward greatness. The focus shifts from actual fulfillment to the visual representation of achievement. People spend more energy curating the appearance of success than understanding what success would actually feel like for them personally. This performance mentality seeps into goal setting itself. Vision boards become less about personal clarity and more about creating something that looks impressive. The images chosen aren't necessarily connected to genuine desires. They're selected because they represent what successful people are supposed to want. Private jets, expensive watches, magazine covers. Symbols borrowed from other people's definitions of achievement rather than authentic expressions of personal values. Research shows that people who achieve their dream goals often experience post-achievement depression. They reach the milestone they've been working toward for years and discover it doesn't deliver the satisfaction they expected. This happens because the goal was never aligned with their core values in the first place. They were chasing someone else's vision of success rather than their own. The achievement feels hollow because it was always hollow, just a pretty picture on a board rather than a meaningful destination. Most career advice treats symptoms rather than the disease. Low salary, difficult boss, boring tasks, long commute, these are presented as the problems to solve. So people create vision boards filled with higher paychecks, better managers, exciting projects, and remote work setups. They're addressing the surface-level irritations while completely ignoring the underlying lack of personal clarity. It's like taking pain medication for a broken bone. The symptoms temporarily improve, but the structural problem remains. Career planning resembles ordering from a restaurant menu more than genuine self-discovery. People browse through available options and pick what looks appealing without considering whether they're actually hungry for it. That vision board filled with entrepreneurial success stories might look exciting, but if you've never honestly examined why you want to build something, you're just selecting an attractive image rather than identifying a personal calling. External validation through achievements operates like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. No matter how many accomplishments you pour in, the emptiness remains because the fundamental issue isn't about acquiring more success markers. The hole represents the lack of internal clarity about why any particular achievement would matter. People chase promotion after promotion, hoping each new title will finally provide the satisfaction they're missing. But external recognition can't fix internal confusion. Vision boards also encourage a passive relationship with career development. People assume that visualizing success will somehow attract opportunities or motivation. But staring at pictures of achievements doesn't develop the skills, relationships, or strategic thinking required to create meaningful work. It's like expecting to become a skilled musician by looking at photos of concert halls. The visualization might maintain enthusiasm, but it doesn't replace the practical work of building competence. The most fulfilled professionals don't create vision boards, they develop vision clarity. Instead of collecting images of what they want to have, they understand why certain types of work energize them. They can articulate what problems they feel compelled to solve and what kind of impact they want to create. This clarity provides direction for decision-making that goes far beyond any collection of aspirational photos. Vision clarity means understanding your fundamental motivations well enough to recognize opportunities that align with them. When you know why you work, you can evaluate potential career moves based on whether they support or undermine that deeper purpose. The external circumstances become less important than the internal alignment. People with vision clarity make career decisions that seem counterintuitive to others, but feel completely logical to them. They turn down prestigious opportunities that don't match their values. They pursue paths that look risky, but align with their deeper motivations. Their careers might not look as polished or linear as a carefully crafted vision board, but they reflect genuine personal understanding rather than borrowed definitions of success. The real tragedy of vision board culture isn't the abandoned Pinterest boards or the unfulfilled goals. It's the time and energy spent chasing images of other people's achievements, instead of doing the harder work of understanding what would actually create meaning and satisfaction for your specific personality, values, and circumstances. And this lack of self-knowledge becomes painfully obvious when people start worrying about being replaced by something that doesn't even understand what it means to have a purpose. The AI anxiety that's actually revealing our deeper problem. The most telling symptom of this widespread confusion shows up in how people react to technological change. Everyone's terrified that artificial intelligence will take their jobs, but 47% of workers openly admit they could be replaced by a chatbot, and nobody would notice for weeks. Think about that for a second. Nearly half the workforce is essentially saying their daily contributions are so minimal or routine that an algorithm could handle them without missing a beat. The fear isn't really about AI capabilities. It's about the sudden realization that many people can't actually articulate what unique value they bring to their work. The workers most panicked about AI replacement aren't the ones doing complex, creative, or strategic work. They're the people who have been going through the motions for months or years without understanding their deeper contribution to their organization. They show up, complete assigned tasks, attend meetings, respond to emails, but they've never stopped to consider what would actually be lost if they weren't there. When AI enters the conversation, it forces an uncomfortable self-examination that many people have been avoiding. This resembles relationship insecurities more than career concerns. If you're constantly worried your partner might leave you for someone else, it's usually because you're not confident about what makes you irreplaceable in their life. The anxiety isn't really about the other person, it's about your own uncertainty regarding your value in the relationship. AI fears work the same way. If you're genuinely worried about being replaced by software, it might be because you're not sure why you're valuable in the first place. Automation anxiety is really identity anxiety wearing a technology costume. We're not actually scared of robots taking over the world. We're scared of becoming irrelevant, of discovering that our professional contributions don't matter as much as we thought they did. The AI threat forces people to confront questions they've been unconsciously avoiding. What do I actually do that matters? What would be lost if I wasn't here? Why does this organization need me specifically, rather than just someone who can perform these functions? But here's what's fascinating about the research: people with strong personal purpose are actually excited about AI development. They see artificial intelligence as a tool that could amplify their unique human contributions rather than replace them. When you know why you do what you do, when you understand your specific mission and the value you create, AI becomes an accelerator rather than a threat. You start thinking about how machine efficiency could free you up to focus on the parts of work that energize you most. These purpose-driven professionals understand something crucial that the anxious crowd misses. AI can process information, automate routine tasks, and even generate content, but it cannot replicate passion, intuition, or personal mission. The catch is that passion, intuition, and personal mission only matter if you know what yours actually are. If you've never identified what drives you at work beyond the paycheck, then AI anxiety makes complete sense because you're competing in exactly the areas where machines excel. The response to AI threats has been predictably backwards. People are frantically trying to AI-proof their careers by learning more technical skills, taking coding boot camps, or pursuing certifications in data analysis. This approach resembles trying to outrun a car on foot. Even if you get faster, you're still competing in the wrong category. The solution isn't to become more machine-like in your capabilities. It's to become more human in your understanding of why you work and what unique perspective you bring. Technical skills become obsolete, but personal clarity about your professional purpose remains relevant regardless of technological changes. Someone who understands they're driven by helping others solve complex problems will find ways to do that work, whether the tools are spreadsheets or AI algorithms. Someone who knows they're energized by building systems that improve people's lives will adapt their methods as technology evolves while maintaining their core mission. Companies that have already adopted AI tools report mixed results. Resume Builder's survey found that 49% of businesses are using ChatGPT, and 48% of those companies say the AI has replaced workers. But the interesting detail is which workers get replaced versus which ones become more valuable. The employees who get displaced are typically those performing routine, predictable tasks that can be systematized. The employees who become more valuable are those who can use AI to enhance their creative problem-solving, strategic thinking, or relationship building. This creates a stark division in the workforce. On one side are people who see their job as completing assigned tasks efficiently. For them, AI represents direct competition because machines can complete many tasks faster and more accurately than humans. On the other side are people who see their job as solving problems, creating value, or serving others in ways that align with their personal mission. For them, AI represents a powerful tool that can handle the routine work so they can focus on higher-level contributions. Many workers have inadvertently trained themselves to be more machine-like over the years. They follow procedures, implement standard processes, and make decisions based on established protocols. This approach worked well in stable, predictable work environments, but it makes them vulnerable to automation because they're competing directly with what machines do best. The irony is that, in trying to be good employees by following systems and procedures, they've made themselves replaceable by systems and procedures. The future belongs to people who understand their irreplaceable human qualities and can articulate how those qualities create value in their work. This means knowing not just what skills you have, but why you're motivated to use them. It means understanding not just what problems you can solve, but why you feel compelled to solve them. It means recognizing not just what tasks you can perform, but what unique perspective you bring to performing them. Workers who can clearly explain their personal mission and how it connects to their professional contributions will thrive regardless of technological changes. They'll use AI to amplify their human capabilities rather than compete with machine capabilities. They'll make career decisions based on alignment with their deeper purpose rather than fear of technological displacement. The real threat to your career isn't artificial intelligence taking over your job functions. The real threat is continuing to work without understanding why you're doing the work in the first place. And this lack of clarity becomes even more problematic when you remove the external structure that used to provide at least some sense of professional identity. The remote work loneliness epidemic nobody saw coming. When that framework disappears entirely, workers discover they've been relying on office culture to provide what should have come from within. Here's something nobody predicted about remote work. Workers report feeling more isolated in 2025 than they did during the actual lockdown, despite having complete social freedom and no government restrictions keeping them home. During 2020 and 2021, people had a shared experience of isolation. Everyone was stuck inside together, which created a strange sense of community, even in separation. Now remote workers are choosing isolation while watching everyone else return to offices, social events, and normal routines. The loneliness feels more acute because it's self-imposed rather than universally mandated. Working from home solved the commute problem, but created an identity crisis that nobody saw coming. Office culture, for all its flaws, provided external structure for professional identity. You dressed a certain way, interacted with colleagues, participated in meetings, grabbed lunch with coworkers. These rituals helped define who you were during work hours versus personal time. Remove that framework, and many people discover they have no internal compass for professional identity. They're the same person in the same clothes, doing the same activities, whether they're working or not working, which creates a psychological blur. Without the physical workplace, many remote workers lost their sense of professional self entirely. The boundaries that once existed between work mode and personal mode disappeared, but nothing replaced them. People find themselves answering emails in pajamas, taking work calls from their bed, and attending important meetings from the same couch where they watch Netflix. The external markers of professionalism vanished, but the internal understanding of why the work mattered never developed to compensate. The loneliness remote workers experience isn't actually about missing coworkers or office social dynamics. Research shows that 39% of remote workers report feeling lonely or isolated, but the isolation runs deeper than just wanting more human interaction. It's about missing the shared sense of purpose that physical workplaces sometimes provided, even when that purpose was artificial or imposed from above. Being in the same building working towards supposedly common goals created a feeling of collective meaning, even if individual workers never understood their personal connection to that meaning. Remote work resembles eating dinner alone every night. Technically, you're getting fed, your nutritional needs are met, you can eat whatever you want whenever you want it. But something essential is missing from the experience. The social context that makes meals meaningful, sharing food, conversation, connection with others, disappears when you're always dining solo. Remote workers get their tasks completed and their paychecks deposited, but the human context that made work feel like more than just individual activity is gone. This explains why Zoom fatigue became such a widespread phenomenon. The exhaustion isn't really about video calls or screen time. It's about the mental energy required to perform professionalism without feeling genuinely connected to the work itself. When you're physically in an office, the environment provides cues about how to behave and what role to play. On video calls, you have to consciously create and maintain that professional persona without any external support. It's like being an actor who has to hold character for 8 hours straight without a set, costume, or director to help maintain the illusion. People spend enormous mental energy trying to look engaged and professional during video meetings for work they don't feel connected to. They adjust their camera angle, choose appropriate backgrounds, modulate their voice, and monitor their facial expressions while simultaneously trying to focus on meeting content. This performance becomes exhausting because it's not supported by genuine enthusiasm for the work being discussed. The disconnect between the professional image they're projecting and the internal emptiness they're feeling creates cognitive strain that accumulates throughout the day. Research reveals a crucial distinction among remote workers. Those who have clear personal missions report significantly higher satisfaction than those who simply work from home without deeper purpose. The location change alone doesn't create fulfillment. It just removes the external structure that was masking internal confusion. Remote workers with strong personal clarity about why they do their work thrive in the flexibility and autonomy. Remote workers without that clarity feel untethered and directionless. A 2025 study found that 56% of remote workers go weeks without leaving their homes, and many report going days without speaking to another person. This isolation compounds the identity crisis because there's no external feedback about professional performance or contribution. In traditional offices, colleagues provide social cues about whether your work matters, whether you're contributing effectively, whether you're valued by the team. Remote workers lose these social mirrors and have to rely entirely on internal assessment of their professional worth. The blurred boundaries between work and personal life create chronic stress for workers who lack clear purpose. Nearly half of remote employees report having difficulty unplugging from work and feeling always on. When you don't know why you're doing the work, you can't distinguish between important tasks and busy work. Everything feels equally urgent and equally meaningless, so there's no natural stopping point. Work expands to fill available time because there's no internal criteria for when enough meaningful work has been accomplished. Some remote workers have turned their home offices into elaborate shrines to productivity. Multiple monitors, ergonomic chairs, standing desks, noise-canceling headphones, productivity apps, time-tracking software, goal-setting systems. They optimize every aspect of their work environment, hoping that the right setup will create the engagement they're missing. But all this optimization focuses on efficiency rather than meaning. They're perfecting the mechanics of work while ignoring the question of whether the work itself aligns with who they are. The most successful remote workers didn't just change where they work, they clarified why they work. They use the transition to remote work as an opportunity to examine their relationship with their job and understand what aspects of their work truly energize them. They developed internal structure based on personal values rather than external structure imposed by office culture. But this level of self-awareness and intentional career development isn't equally distributed across generations. One group in particular has responded to meaningless work in a way that's driving managers absolutely crazy. Why Gen Z is quiet quitting, and it's not what you think. Gen Z workers are being accused of lacking commitment when they're actually demonstrating sophisticated judgment about where to invest their energy. They've watched millennials burn themselves out chasing promotions and corner offices and decided that climbing the corporate ladder isn't worth it if the ladder is leaning against the wrong building entirely. This generation witnessed something previous generations missed. They saw their older siblings and cousins work 60-hour weeks, sacrifice relationships and health, climb every rung of the corporate hierarchy, and still end up feeling empty and exhausted at the top. Millennials played by all the traditional rules, earned the degrees, took the internships, worked the overtime, got the promotions, and many of them are more miserable now than when they started. Gen Z looked at that outcome and asked a simple question that previous generations never thought to ask. What's the point of winning a game that doesn't actually lead to fulfillment? The generation accused of having no work ethic actually has the highest standards for work meaning in modern history. They just refuse to pretend that busy work is important or that staying late shows dedication when the work itself serves no clear purpose. Previous generations were taught that any job was better than no job, that you should be grateful for steady employment regardless of whether it utilized your talents or aligned with your values. Gen Z rejects this framework entirely. They want to know why their daily tasks matter and how their contributions connect to something larger than quarterly profit margins. Quiet quitting resembles being in a relationship where you've stopped trying because you know it's not going anywhere meaningful. You still show up, you fulfill your basic obligations, you're not actively destructive, but you've withdrawn your emotional investment because continued effort feels pointless. The relationship might look fine from the outside, no fights, no drama, everything technically functional, but the deeper connection has been severed. Gen Z workers maintain professional behavior while refusing to give their hearts to work that doesn't deserve it. Older generations mistake this boundary setting for lack of ambition, when it's actually sophisticated self-preservation. Baby boomers and Gen X were conditioned to equate overwork with virtue, to see exhaustion as evidence of commitment, to measure worth through willingness to sacrifice personal needs for professional advancement. They interpret Gen Z's refusal to work unpaid overtime as laziness when it's really wisdom. These younger workers understand something their predecessors didn't, that giving everything to work that doesn't align with your values is a recipe for long-term resentment and burnout. The 2025 Deloitte Global Gen Z and Millennial Survey found that 44% of Gen Z workers have left jobs they felt lacked purpose, and around 40% have rejected assignments or potential employers based on personal ethics. These aren't workers who can't find jobs or lack skills. They're people with options who choose alignment over advancement. They'd rather work for less money doing something meaningful than earn higher salaries performing tasks that feel pointless. This isn't idealistic thinking. It's strategic career planning based on understanding what actually creates satisfaction. Research consistently shows that Gen Z workers will outperform everyone else when they find work aligned with their values, but they completely check out when they don't. This isn't inconsistency or moodiness, it's cause and effect. When the work connects to something they care about, they bring creativity, energy, and innovation that exceeds older generations' expectations. When the work feels meaningless, they do exactly what's required and nothing more. The performance difference isn't about capability, it's about engagement. Quiet quitting is really loud communication. It's saying something that previous generations never had the courage to say. I need more than a paycheck to feel alive. I need to understand why my work matters. I need to see how my daily tasks connect to outcomes I actually care about. I need to feel like I'm building something worthwhile rather than just exchanging time for money. This isn't unrealistic or entitled, it's human. The desire for meaningful work is as basic as the need for food and shelter, but previous generations were taught to suppress it in service of financial security. The generational clash becomes most obvious in workplace interactions that older managers think should motivate employees. They organize pizza parties to boost morale, not realizing that purpose can't be catered. They offer small perks and benefits while avoiding conversations about whether the work itself creates value. They're baffled by employees who won't work overtime for team-building events or company swag, missing the point that Gen Z isn't motivated by superficial rewards when the underlying work feels hollow. This creates workplace tension that goes far deeper than surface-level conflicts about remote work or flexible schedules. The real clash is between the paying your dues mentality that shaped older generations and the life is too short for meaningless work philosophy that drives Gen Z boomers and Gen X. Were taught that suffering through unfulfilling work was part of growing up, that you earned the right to meaningful work by first proving you could handle meaningless work. Gen Z rejects this logic entirely. The accusations of laziness miss the fundamental shift in how Gen Z defines productivity. Previous generations measured output through hours worked, tasks completed, and visible effort expended. Gen Z measures output through problems solved, value created, and impact generated. They're willing to work intensely when the work matters, but they refuse to perform busyness for its own sake. This isn't laziness, it's efficiency applied to life choices rather than just work tasks. What older generations interpret as lack of ambition is actually elevated standards for what ambition should target. Gen Z isn't less motivated, they're motivated by different things. They want to build careers that align with their values rather than just advance their bank account balances. They're ambitious about creating lives that feel meaningful rather than just impressive to others. But here's where the story takes an interesting turn. Many workers from all generations are responding to meaningless work by creating additional streams of income, convinced that the solution to professional dissatisfaction is simply having more professional options. The side hustle trap that's keeping you stuck. The uncomfortable truth that nobody wants to acknowledge about the side hustle explosion is that most people are just running from their main job problems instead of actually solving them. They think adding more revenue sources will fix the emptiness they feel in their primary work, but they're essentially trying to cure a headache by playing louder music. The fundamental issue isn't insufficient income diversity, it's insufficient purpose clarity. You can stack as many side projects as you want, but if none of them connect to what actually motivates you, you'll just end up exhausted in multiple directions instead of fulfilled in one. Side hustle culture has become the most socially acceptable form of career avoidance in modern history. Instead of having difficult conversations about why their main job feels meaningless, people convince themselves they need more income streams. They start Etsy shops, launch YouTube channels, drive for rideshare companies, sell courses online, and flip products on Amazon. Each new venture feels like progress because it's movement and activity, but movement without direction is just sophisticated procrastination. They're creating elaborate systems to avoid the basic question of what kind of work would actually energize them. Most side hustles fail not because of market saturation or lack of business skills, but because they're built on the same shaky foundation as the main job. They're trying to escape no clear understanding of why this specific person should be doing this specific work. People choose side hustles based on potential profitability or ease of entry rather than alignment with their deeper motivations. They research which online businesses make the most money, not which types of work would feel meaningful to them personally. This approach guarantees that even successful side hustles will eventually feel as hollow as the day job they were meant to replace. The side hustle phenomenon resembles dating other people while staying in a bad relationship. It might feel exciting and provide temporary validation, but you're still avoiding the real conversation about what you actually need to feel fulfilled. People invest enormous energy building alternative income sources while refusing to examine why their primary work situation feels so unsatisfying. They assume the problem is external, not enough money, limited opportunities, difficult bosses, when the real problem is internal confusion about what would constitute meaningful professional engagement. Social media has completely glamorized the hustle without addressing whether all that hustling is moving people toward anything meaningful. Instagram feeds overflow with laptop lifestyle photos, passive income screenshots, and inspirational quotes about building multiple revenue streams. The focus stays entirely on the mechanics of making money rather than the deeper question of why you want to make money doing these particular activities. People see successful side hustlers and think they need to copy the business model when they really need to understand the personal motivation that made those specific ventures feel worthwhile to their creators. This creates a bizarre situation where people work 40 hours at jobs they don't enjoy, then spend another 20 hours each week on side projects they also don't enjoy, all in service of someday having enough money to do work they actually care about. The math doesn't work. If you can't find engagement in 60 hours of weekly work across multiple projects, the problem isn't the projects, it's your relationship with work itself. Adding more income streams won't solve a fundamental lack of clarity about what energizes you professionally. People with purpose clarity understand something that serial side hustlers miss: energy spent on 5 different projects without clear direction is far less effective than focused energy on one aligned path. They'd rather excel in work that matters to them than spread themselves thin across multiple ventures that feel equally meaningless. This isn't about having less ambition. It's about having more strategic ambition that targets outcomes they actually care about achieving. Multiple income streams create an illusion of progress that can actually prevent real career development. People feel productive because they're constantly busy with different projects, but busy doesn't equal purposeful. They mistake activity for advancement and variety for growth. The constant switching between different types of work prevents them from developing deep expertise or genuine passion in any particular area. They become generalists by default rather than choice, spreading their attention so thin that nothing receives the focus required for meaningful development. The side hustle trap becomes most obvious when you examine the emotional experience of people managing multiple income sources. They report feeling scattered, overwhelmed, and like they're never fully present in any single activity. Their main job suffers because they're mentally planning their evening Etsy orders. Their side projects suffer because they're exhausted from their day job. Their personal relationships suffer because they're always working on something but never feel like they're making real progress on anything. Social media compounds this problem by creating pressure to document and monetize every hobby or interest. People can't enjoy photography without wondering if they should start a wedding photography business. They can't cook dinner without considering whether they should launch a meal prep service. Every personal interest becomes evaluated as a potential revenue stream rather than enjoyed for its own sake. This turns life into a constant business development meeting with yourself. The most successful entrepreneurs don't have the most side hustles. They have the clearest sense of what they're building toward. They understand their fundamental motivations well enough to recognize which opportunities align with their deeper purpose and which ones are just attractive distractions. They're willing to say no to potentially profitable ventures that don't match their values or long-term vision. Their success comes from focused execution of aligned work rather than diversified execution of random work. People who escape the side hustle trap don't necessarily reduce their income sources. They align their income sources with their personal mission. Their various projects support and amplify each other because they all serve the same underlying purpose. Instead of juggling completely different types of work, they find multiple ways to express the same core motivations. This creates synergy rather than exhaustion because all their professional energy flows in the same direction. But here's what's fascinating about people who achieve this alignment. They all had to face one conversation that most workers spend their entire careers avoiding. They had to honestly examine why they chose their current path in the first place and whether it still makes sense for who they've become. The uncomfortable conversation your career needs. Most people will spend 3 hours researching the perfect Netflix series to binge this weekend, reading reviews and watching trailers, and scrolling through recommendations. But they won't spend 20 minutes honestly examining why they chose their current career path. We apply more strategic thinking to our entertainment choices, than to the work that consumes 40 hours of our week and defines a significant portion of our identity. We research streaming options with the dedication of investigative journalists, but we avoid the basic question of whether our professional lives actually align with who we are as people. Most workers can explain their job duties in exhaustive detail. They know their reporting structure, their key performance indicators, their quarterly objectives, their software systems, their meeting schedules. Ask them to walk through a typical workday, and they'll provide a comprehensive breakdown of tasks, deadlines, and responsibilities. But ask why this particular work matters to them personally, and they go completely blank. The conversation shifts from confident expertise to uncomfortable silence. They know the what and the how of their professional lives, but they've never seriously considered the why. This gap reveals something crucial about how most people approach their careers. They focus on external mechanics while avoiding internal examination. They can discuss salary negotiations, benefit packages, advancement opportunities, and industry trends with impressive sophistication. But they can't articulate what type of work energizes them or what kind of impact they want to create. They've become experts on their job descriptions while remaining strangers to their own motivations. The most successful people in any field regularly have uncomfortable conversations with themselves about whether their current path aligns with their deeper values. These aren't casual check-ins or superficial self-assessments. These are difficult, honest examinations of whether their daily work reflects who they actually are and what they genuinely care about. They ask hard questions about whether they're building something meaningful or just going through profitable motions. They're willing to confront the possibility that their current success might be taking them in the wrong direction. Career self-reflection resembles looking in a mirror after a bad haircut. The initial view is jarring and uncomfortable. You see clearly that something is wrong, but acknowledging the problem means accepting that changes need to be made. It's easier to avoid mirrors than to deal with the reality they reveal. But just as ignoring a bad haircut doesn't make it grow out faster, avoiding career self-examination doesn't make professional dissatisfaction disappear. The discomfort of honest assessment is temporary, but the consequences of avoiding it compound over time. We've been conditioned to see career pivots as admissions of failure rather than signs of evolution. Society treats job changes with suspicion, as if switching paths indicates instability or lack of commitment. This conditioning makes people stick with misaligned careers far longer than they should, afraid that changing direction will be interpreted as giving up rather than growing up. The stigma around career flexibility traps people in situations that no longer serve their development or satisfy their deeper needs. Research consistently shows that people who regularly reassess their career alignment report significantly higher satisfaction and better performance than those who never question their professional direction. This isn't because they change jobs more frequently, but because they make intentional decisions about their work rather than defaulting to whatever path they happen to start on. They treat their careers as ongoing experiments rather than permanent commitments, adjusting course based on what they learn about themselves and what they discover about their evolving interests. The framework that separates fulfilled professionals from frustrated ones involves asking fundamentally different questions about work opportunities. Instead of focusing primarily on compensation, benefits, or prestige, they ask whether specific roles will energize or drain their core self. They evaluate potential positions based on alignment with their values rather than just advancement of their bank account. They consider whether the daily activities of a job will feel meaningful or merely tolerable. This approach requires understanding yourself well enough to recognize what types of work naturally energize you versus what types of work you can perform competently, but find emotionally draining. Some people thrive on solving complex analytical problems, but wither in roles requiring constant social interaction. Others need collaborative environments to feel engaged, but struggle in isolated, independent work situations. The key is honest self-awareness about your authentic professional needs, rather than what you think you should want based on external expectations. We treat major career decisions like picking a college major at 18, as if we're supposed to predict our entire future self based on extremely limited life experience and self-knowledge. This approach sets unrealistic expectations for career planning and creates unnecessary guilt when interests or priorities shift over time. The 18-year-old who chose accounting because it seemed stable and profitable might discover at 30 that they're actually energized by creative problem-solving and frustrated by routine financial tasks. This isn't failure, it's normal human development. The cost of avoiding career self-examination accumulates slowly but devastatingly over time. Years pass while people go through professional motions that feel increasingly disconnected from their authentic interests and values. They develop expertise in work that doesn't genuinely engage them. They build reputations in fields that don't reflect their true capabilities or passions. Their authentic self slowly suffocates under layers of professional obligations that seemed reasonable individually, but collectively create a life that feels hollow. The conversation you're avoiding about your career satisfaction is exactly the conversation that could change everything. Not because honest self-examination guarantees easy solutions or immediate improvements, but because it provides the clarity necessary for making intentional decisions about your professional future. You can't navigate towards something better if you haven't honestly assessed what better would actually mean for your specific personality, values, and life circumstances. That uncomfortable conversation isn't asking whether you should quit your job tomorrow or completely change industries next month. It's asking whether your current work aligns with who you're becoming as a person and what you're learning matters to you personally. The answers might surprise you, challenge you, or even scare you, but they'll give you the foundation for building a career that feels as good as it looks on paper. But first, you might need to unlearn some deeply ingrained beliefs about what career success is supposed to look like, beliefs that were probably shaped by people who built their careers in a completely different world. Why your parents' career advice is sabotaging your success. The career guidance that shaped previous generations assumes a professional world that no longer exists. Parents who spent 30 years climbing the ladder at one company are giving career advice to kids who will have 15 different jobs across 7 industries before they turn 40. The fundamental assumptions about how careers work have shifted so dramatically that well-intentioned guidance from previous generations can actually sabotage modern professional success. It's like asking someone who learned to drive on dirt roads to teach highway navigation. The basic principles might overlap, but the practical application exists in completely different worlds. The stable job mentality that defined previous generations directly conflicts with the modern reality that adaptability and purpose matter more than security. Parents who found success through loyalty, consistency, and climbing internal corporate hierarchies can't understand why their children keep changing positions or pursuing non-traditional career paths. They interpret job changes as instability when younger workers see them as strategic career development. The parent generation equates longevity with success, while their children prioritize alignment and growth over tenure. This creates psychological tension for young professionals who want to respect their parents' wisdom, while recognizing that their advice doesn't match current career realities. They feel guilty for not following the traditional path of finding a good company and staying there for decades. They struggle to explain why they left stable positions for uncertain opportunities, or why they turned down promotions that didn't align with their personal values. The advice they received growing up doesn't account for the modern understanding that career satisfaction strongly predicts overall life satisfaction. Following outdated career scripts resembles using a 1995 roadmap to navigate 2025 traffic patterns. The destinations might still exist, but all the roads have changed, new highways have been built, old routes have been closed, and the entire transportation system operates differently. Parents recommend career strategies based on economic conditions, workplace cultures, and advancement structures that no longer exist in most industries. Their advice assumes job security, pension plans, and clear promotional hierarchies that have been largely replaced by contract work, portable benefits, and lateral career movements. The any job is better than no job mindset can trap people in positions that slowly erode their sense of self-worth and possibility. This scarcity mentality assumes that work opportunities are rare and valuable regardless of whether they match your skills, interests, or values. Parents who lived through economic downturns or limited job markets developed this protective approach to employment. They learned to accept whatever work was available and be grateful for steady paychecks. But this survival strategy becomes counterproductive in labor markets, where workers have more choices and employers compete for talented employees. Research consistently shows that career satisfaction has become a stronger predictor of overall life satisfaction than job security. Studies indicate that people who find meaning in their work report higher levels of happiness, better physical health, and stronger relationships than those who prioritize security over engagement. This represents a fundamental shift from previous generations, who were taught to separate work satisfaction from life satisfaction. The modern understanding recognizes that professional fulfillment and personal well-being are deeply interconnected. Modern career success requires unlearning inherited beliefs about work that no longer serve the current landscape. Many young professionals struggle with internal programming that equates job hopping with failure, treats entrepreneurship as risky rather than strategic, and views creative careers as hobbies rather than legitimate professions. These inherited assumptions create self-doubt about career decisions that would otherwise feel natural and appropriate. Unlearning family conditioning about work becomes as important as developing new professional skills. Family dinners become awkward when relatives ask, "But what's your real job?" after you mention freelance writing, social media consulting, or starting an online business. Parents and extended family members often can't categorize non-traditional work within their understanding of legitimate careers. They assume that anything involving the internet, creativity, or flexible schedules must be temporary or supplementary rather than primary income sources. This skepticism creates emotional strain for people building successful careers in emerging industries. The generational divide becomes most obvious when discussing work-life balance, career changes, and professional priorities. Parents who sacrificed personal interests for job advancement can't understand children who turn down promotions that would require relocating or working excessive hours. They interpret these decisions as lack of ambition when younger workers see them as intelligent boundary setting. The parent generation views career compromises as necessary sacrifices, while their children treat them as unnecessary limitations. This disconnect extends to how different generations define career success. Parents measure achievement through titles, salaries, and years of service. Their children measure success through impact, alignment, and personal growth. Parents ask about promotion timelines and retirement planning. Their children ask about purpose, creativity, and work that feels meaningful. These different success metrics create communication challenges because each generation judges the other's career decisions using incompatible criteria. Technology has fundamentally altered career possibilities in ways that previous generations struggle to comprehend. Parents might not understand how someone can build a successful business through social media, earn significant income through online courses, or develop expertise in fields that didn't exist when they were starting their careers. They apply old frameworks to new opportunities, often underestimating the viability of technology-enabled career paths. The key insight is that respecting your parents doesn't mean copying their career playbook. Honoring their wisdom means recognizing the principles behind their advice, work ethic, responsibility, planning for the future, while adapting those principles to current career realities. It means having honest conversations about how career landscapes have changed and why different strategies might be necessary for different economic and social conditions. Being brave enough to write your own career script doesn't disregard family guidance. It builds on their foundation while accounting for changed circumstances that require different approaches to professional development. But this clarity becomes even more challenging when you're constantly exposed to everyone else's carefully curated version of career success, making it nearly impossible to distinguish between what actually works and what just looks impressive online. The social media success theater that's ruining your judgment. LinkedIn has become the professional equivalent of Instagram, where everyone's thriving according to their posts, but private messages tell completely different stories of confusion and dissatisfaction. Scroll through any LinkedIn feed and you'll see an endless parade of career victories. new promotions, exciting job changes, successful project launches, speaking engagements, industry awards. Everyone appears to be crushing their professional goals while maintaining perfect work-life balance and finding deep meaning in their daily tasks. But the reality behind those polished posts reveals something much more complicated and human. The disconnect between public career performance and private career anxiety has never been more pronounced. People craft carefully worded updates about their exciting new opportunities while privately struggling with imposter syndrome, financial stress, or complete confusion about their professional direction. They share photos from networking events and conference presentations while battling Sunday night dread about returning to work Monday morning. The curated highlight reel creates an illusion of universal career success that makes everyone else's normal struggles feel like personal failures. Constant exposure to these curated career success stories establishes unrealistic expectations for what professional development should look like. People see colleagues posting about rapid promotions, dream job offers, and seamless career transitions without seeing the months of uncertainty, rejection letters, or internal debates that preceded those announcements. The compressed timeline of social media makes complex career changes appear effortless and immediate. Someone might post about landing their perfect role without mentioning the 2 years of preparation, skill development, and strategic networking that made that opportunity possible. This creates a dangerous comparison trap where normal career challenges feel abnormal. Job searches that take months instead of weeks seem like personal inadequacy. Career pivots that involve temporary salary reductions or stepping backward to move forward appear to be mistakes rather than strategic investments. Professional setbacks that are completely typical parts of career development feel like evidence of individual failure because they don't match the seamless success narratives dominating social media feeds. The pressure to build your personal brand has shifted career focus from internal alignment to external perception. People make professional decisions based on how they'll look on LinkedIn rather than how they'll feel in the actual role. They accept positions that photograph well but don't match their values. They pursue opportunities that will generate impressive posts but drain their energy in daily execution. The emphasis on personal branding turns career development into performance art, where the audience's reaction matters more than the performer's authentic experience. Career social media operates exactly like Instagram food photography. Everything looks perfectly arranged, beautifully lit, and incredibly appealing from the outside. But you have absolutely no idea whether it actually tastes good. Someone might post stunning photos from their corner office or exotic business travel locations while experiencing profound professional emptiness. The visual markers of success become divorced from the emotional reality of the work itself. People optimize for the photograph rather than the experience. This performance mentality seeps into career decision-making in subtle but significant ways. Professionals choose job titles that sound impressive over roles that would be genuinely engaging. They prioritize companies with recognizable brands over organizations whose missions align with their personal values. They accept speaking opportunities and board positions that look good on their profiles while declining work that would be more personally fulfilling but less publicly visible. The career becomes a stage production designed for social media consumption rather than personal satisfaction. Research consistently shows that heavy social media users report higher career dissatisfaction and more frequent job changes. The constant comparison with curated success stories creates unrealistic expectations and reduces satisfaction with current circumstances. People who spend significant time consuming professional social media content are more likely to question their career choices, consider job changes, and feel dissatisfied with their current progress. The platform designed to showcase professional success actually undermines professional contentment. The irony becomes even more pronounced when you examine the gap between someone's LinkedIn posts and their private career anxiety. The same person posting about being grateful for this incredible opportunity and excited to share this journey might be sending panicked messages to friends about feeling completely lost professionally. They maintain the public performance of career confidence while privately struggling with imposter syndrome, unclear direction, or genuine dissatisfaction with their work situation. Sunday night anxiety reveals the truth behind Monday morning LinkedIn posts. People who project professional enthusiasm online often experience genuine dread about returning to work each week. The disconnect between their public career narrative and their private emotional experience creates cognitive dissonance that compounds their job dissatisfaction. They feel pressure to maintain the positive online persona while dealing with very real professional challenges that don't match their projected image. Authentic career development happens in private reflection, not public performance. The most meaningful professional growth occurs through honest self-examination, difficult conversations with mentors, and quiet experimentation with different types of work. These processes don't generate impressive social media content, but they create genuine understanding of personal strengths, interests, and values. The internal work required for career clarity can't be captured in LinkedIn updates or professional photographs. The professionals who achieve genuine career satisfaction spend significantly less time documenting their work online and more time understanding why they do it. They focus on internal alignment rather than external validation. They make career decisions based on personal clarity rather than social media perception. They're more interested in how their work feels to them personally than how it appears to their professional network. Building a career that looks good online might actually prevent you from building one that feels good in reality. The energy spent crafting the perfect professional image could be invested in developing genuine expertise, building meaningful relationships, or exploring work that truly engages your interests and abilities. The performance of career success becomes a substitute for the experience of career satisfaction. The path to career fulfillment runs through understanding your own motivations and values, not through optimizing your professional social media presence. The work of discovering what energizes you, what problems you feel compelled to solve, and what kind of impact you want to create happens offline, in quiet moments of reflection that generate no likes, comments, or shares, but provide the foundation for genuine professional satisfaction. But most people never create space for that kind of honest self-examination because they're afraid of what they might discover about what they actually want. The simple question that changes everything: what would I do if I knew I couldn't fail? This question cuts through years of career confusion faster than any amount of professional coaching or self-help reading. Not for goal setting or manifestation or creating another vision board that will gather dust by March. For purpose discovery. For understanding what actually energizes you at a level so fundamental that external circumstances become irrelevant. This question has the power to reveal motivations you've been ignoring and illuminate work that would feel less like obligation and more like expression. The question works because it removes every practical barrier that normally prevents honest self-examination. Money concerns disappear. Family expectations vanish. Market conditions become irrelevant. Social pressure evaporates. Suddenly you're left with just yourself and the question of what you would choose to do with your time and energy if the outcome was guaranteed. Most people discover they've never actually asked themselves this question without immediately adding qualifications about why their answer isn't realistic or practical. That immediate jump to, but that's not realistic, reveals something crucial about how we've been trained to think about work and life. We've become so conditioned to focus on limitations that we can't even explore possibilities without self-censoring. The question isn't asking you to quit your job tomorrow or ignore financial responsibilities. It's asking you to understand what drives you when all the external noise gets stripped away. What would you pursue if you knew success was certain? Think of this question like removing every piece of furniture from a room you've lived in for years. Suddenly, you can see the actual space, the natural light patterns, the architectural features that were hidden behind couches and tables and accumulated stuff. The room was always that size and shape, but the furniture prevented you from seeing its true potential. Your core motivations work the same way. They've been there all along, but practical concerns and daily responsibilities have cluttered your view of what you actually care about doing. Most people expect their answer to point toward a specific job title or career path, but that's not how purpose works. The answer usually reveals a type of impact or contribution that could be expressed through dozens of different professional contexts. You might discover you're energized by bringing order to complex situations, which could manifest as project management, systems consulting, organizational psychology, or urban planning. The specific vehicle matters less than understanding the underlying drive that would make any of those paths feel meaningful. Sarah worked in corporate finance for 12 years before honestly answering this question. Her immediate response was, I would teach people how to manage their money so they could stop being stressed about it all the time. She initially dismissed this as unrealistic because she wasn't trained as an educator and had no experience in financial counseling. But the question revealed her core motivation, helping people find peace through financial clarity. Within 2 years, she had transitioned to financial planning, started a blog about practical money management, and began speaking at community centers about basic financial literacy. Same skills, completely different application, exponentially higher satisfaction. Marcus answered the question with, I would help small businesses figure out how to use technology without getting overwhelmed by it. He was working as a software engineer at a large tech company, building products he didn't particularly care about for users he never met. His answer revealed that he was energized by translation and education rather than pure technical development. He started consulting with local businesses, helping them implement simple technology solutions that actually improved their operations. His engineering background became the foundation for work that felt personally meaningful rather than just professionally competent. The follow-up question provides even deeper insight into your authentic professional motivations. What problems do I feel compelled to solve, even when no one's paying me to? This reveals the issues that capture your attention naturally, the situations that bother you enough to take action without external rewards or recognition. These unpaid obsessions often point toward work that would feel less like effort and more like natural expression of who you are. People's answers to these questions frequently surprise them in ways that reshape their understanding of their own capabilities and interests. The accountant who assumed she just liked working with numbers realizes she's actually energized by creating order from chaos, which could apply to organizational consulting, logistics coordination, or even interior design. The marketing manager who thought he enjoyed persuading people discovers he's motivated by helping others tell their authentic stories, which opens possibilities in coaching, journalism, or content strategy. The software developer who believed she was passionate about technology learns she's actually driven by solving problems that improve people's daily lives, which could manifest through user experience design, product management, or even physical product development. The lawyer who assumed he loved arguing cases realizes he's energized by protecting people who can't protect themselves, which could lead to nonprofit work, policy advocacy, or community organizing. These revelations require genuine courage because they often don't match current reality or previous assumptions about professional identity. Taking your own answers seriously means acknowledging that you might be in the wrong field, pursuing the wrong opportunities, or building expertise in areas that don't align with what actually motivates you. The gap between current circumstances and authentic interests can feel overwhelming, but it also provides the clarity necessary for making intentional changes rather than random career moves. But here's what most people miss about this process. These questions don't necessarily require dramatic career changes or complete professional reinvention. Sometimes the answers reveal that you're in the right general field, but focusing on the wrong aspects of the work. Sometimes they suggest modifications to your current role rather than abandonment of your current path. Sometimes they illuminate ways to express your core motivations through volunteer work, side projects, or different approaches to existing responsibilities. The insight that changes everything is recognizing that your career why has been there all along. You didn't need to discover some hidden passion or uncover secret talents. You needed permission to listen to motivations you've been dismissing as impractical or unrealistic. The questions simply clear away the mental furniture that's been blocking your view of what you already know about what energizes you and what problems you feel compelled to solve. These two simple questions can provide more career clarity than years of traditional planning. They reveal the foundation upon which satisfying work gets built, regardless of industry changes, economic conditions, or technological disruption. But understanding your why is only the beginning. The real challenge is becoming the kind of person who can bring that purpose to whatever work you do. Most people spend their entire careers waiting for the right opportunity to feel purposeful, but that's backwards thinking. Success in 2025 isn't about finding the perfect job. It's about becoming the kind of person who brings purpose to whatever work they do. The research confirms what most of us already know: 89% of Gen Z and 92% of Millennials consider purpose essential for job satisfaction. But purpose isn't something you find in a job description or company mission statement. Purpose is something you bring with you. This week, have the uncomfortable conversation with yourself that most people avoid their entire careers. Am I working towards something that matters to me, or just away from something I don't like? The answer will reveal everything you need to know about your next steps. Knowing your why doesn't guarantee an easy career, but it guarantees a meaningful one.